If you've been in networking longer than 10 minutes, you know the answer to many design questions, it depends, right? When it comes to credit cards with billions of dollars at risk, it depends is just not good enough for the big credit card companies. You see, it's not just hackers that are the problem here. It's the behavior at the store level that must be addressed first. We did a survey recently and found some interesting statistics. You see, each bit of data here gets exponentially more valuable when combined with the others. The more of these that are tied together, the more risky the situation. Now, this is a serious problem. Security pros call this an attack surface, and it's huge. Hey, it's not a new problem, but hey, it is security. It's always a moving target. Compliance in this area is not optional, but it's also not as daunting as one might expect. The credit card companies got together a while back and they formed the Payment Card Industry, PCI, Security Standards Council to help get rid of security vulnerabilities and protect cardholder data. 3 different ecosystems were formed to develop standards: credit card equipment, software development, and the biggie, our focus here, the PCI DSS, or Data Security Standard. PCI starts even before your credit card is swiped. Anybody interacting with credit card information must have a unique user ID, which is not the same as their actual name. This record now becomes the first bit of data attached to an audit trail so we can study every link of the security chain. In fact, you have to have a process for linking all access to system components, especially access done with administrative privileges, such as root, to each individual user. Okay, let's swipe that card and dive into the system components you need to be aware of. As your credit card info travels down the merchant's network, this brings us to the biggest PCI control: creation and maintenance of a secure network. Understand that cardholder data is treated as special throughout its entire life cycle, in motion, in rest, and in retirement. Note first the firewall here. This is so that as your network is zoned to separate trusted and non-trusted traffic, it can be regulated and filtered as needed. There should never be untrusted network on your trusted side. For example, internet access you have or that you offer can never be in contact with your trusted network side. Don't forget this includes any mobile devices and computers, no matter if they are company-owned or personally owned. If they can access your trusted zones, they must have personal firewalls. In fact, Requirement 6 specifies antivirus and patching updates on all systems as well. With that done, let's break out the calendar and drop in a reminder to recheck our device configurations. The requirement's every 6 months minimum. Sound fast? Well, in practice, I recommend at least once a quarter, but that's just me. Before we leave the local network here, it's worth mentioning default passwords. You have to change these before putting any gear on your network. For wireless, this also means community strings, encryption keys, and a few others. These defaults are well published and they're easily available, so don't let that one bite you. Now, while we're talking about passwords, get control of your users and the choices they can make. Believe it or not, this is an actual list of the most commonly used passwords found by auditors in the field. I mean, what is your password requirement? Do you know for sure it's even being followed? Users do not need access to everything. Sure, it's always been easier to have one shared password and trust everyone, but that's not going to fly now. The concept of limited scope must be applied here. Think discretionary access or need to know. One last thing, management statistics cannot be left out as their visibility and access require trusted side connectivity. This means encryption for all communication paths, because this is generally available in most systems, but not enabled by default. So check it before it gets checked for you. All right, let's get that data off the merchant network and onto the credit card issuer. As our data is now in motion, it's got to be encrypted. Any sniffing on these links should just produce gibberish. This is done with both crypto and security protocols like SSL, TLS, SSH, or IPsec, and it applies to all devices. Hey, we're all trying to get the best deal for our business, but don't fall for the old, you don't need all these features trick. Encryption standards are not created equal. Wireless, for example. Older technologies like WEP are strictly prohibited under Requirement 4.1. All right, the transaction was approved. Some very valuable data has traveled from the merchant to the credit card issuer, but where does it go? It's got to be stored somewhere, right? Well, the easy answer is don't store it. That's not so easy to implement. You have to know where it is, for how long it's been there, and how you're going to get rid of it. This is all policy stuff. Now, some of you may even do batch processing and send end-of-day transaction data to headquarters. This can be done, but only under certain conditions, so make sure you know where it applies to you. Now, I'll tell you where to watch for some trouble here: your system logs. In fact, make sure you're not accidentally storing anything in any logs. This includes trace files, history files, database schemas. You get the point? Pay attention to what you are storing as well, because it's not everything. Sensitive authentication data like PIN numbers, full magstripe data, CV codes after authorization, these can never be stored even if encrypted. Now, a couple of final points. It's not all about technology. Good security often fails at the easier and easily forgotten physical layer. If I can just walk up and plug into your trusted side, I get access to a gold mine. It's a good place to bring the bodyguards back. Hey, where's the other guy? The final requirement here in the standard, 11 and 12, include some things that I would refer to as closing the loop. The network is dynamic. You must have a documented process for regular testing, vulnerability scans, penetration tests, rogue wireless identification, even file integrity monitoring. You must use PCI ASVs. Those are approved scanning vendors for these once a quarter, and you got to maintain passing grades. Now, the center of this universe we've traveled through today, it's your policy. Requirement 12 is a proverbial hub for all these spokes. Everything we have talked about must be documented and shared. Think of this thing as a living operating manual, because it's going to be checked. That is a lot of controls. But considering that credit card crime is a multi-billion-dollar industry, it's not slowing down. If PCI DSS compliance seems like a bit of a mountain to climb, don't worry. As a member of the PCI Board of Advisors, PCI DSS special interest groups, and technical working groups, we go to a lot of meetings. We can provide a ton of best practice guidance to help you achieve all the benefits of PCI compliance. Thank you.